Coffee, good. All right. This came up. I did Hippy Dippy the other day, a couple weeks ago, and CTV, critically thinking veteran, was the only person we were debating Roe versus Wade, which was not the best topic for me to be debating because I'm not American. I don't understand the how the Constitution works and the framework of the U.S. government. I'm not gonna be like I have a basic idea, but come on, not at the I can argue whether the 10th Amendment supersedes the 14th. I don't fucking know this shit. But most of the people were some degree of pro-choice, except for CTV, who was the host, but was very, very pro-life and was very loud about it, and kept saying, if you don't want to get pregnant, don't have sex. And this is the same logic that we constantly hear. If you don't want to have a baby, don't have sex. If you don't want to get an STD, don't, like that's an anti-vax thing. You shouldn't be having sex if you're not ready for it and all that kind of shit. Like that's a stupid argument, and I want to talk about that. Everyone fucks. In the words of REM, everybody fucks. It's just a thing. Pretending it's not a thing is called abstinence only education, and historically has not been very good. Has not led to what we would maybe call good outcomes for kids. Oh no, sex sounds great. It does. I haven't had it in a while. I'll admit that. But you could tell. I can shake your hand and crush a fucking brick. But it is a bunch of fun, and there are risks. Pregnancy is a risk, right? Sexually transmitted infections are risks. They are risks of pregnancy. Sorry, of sex. Not telling people about them doesn't make people not have sex. It makes them have bad sex, selfish sex, and it also, doesn't protect them against, or doesn't warn them against the problems that come from sex. The idea that we can just tell people not to have sex and therefore that absolves us of the problem. It's like saying, there's a guy ODing on the street. Oh, well, shouldn't have done drugs. That's a dick answer. That's a genuine dick answer. People are gonna do drugs. People are gonna have sex. That's human. And sorry, but pretending that the answer is you should deal with the consequences when there are ways to not deal with the consequences or to differently deal with the consequences is stupid, right? So sorry, CTV, but that's a bad argument. People have sex. Kids have sex. People who are not ready to have babies are gonna have sex. Sometimes people who are married aren't ready to have babies because we live in a world where the cost of living is absolutely outrageous and people can't keep up because they're not getting good jobs without having $80,000 worth of student loan debt. And even then, they're probably starting at damn near minimum wage. So if we have to wait to have any kind of sex until such time as we are actively able to provide for a life, a lot of people are just not going to have sex anymore. Do we think that's real? Because I don't. I'm pretty sure that ain't ever going to be a thing. The stance really just shows that someone would prefer to not understand how the world works. Yeah, it's head in sand thinking, right? It's if you don't want to if you don't want to be treated badly, then just don't be born gay. Choose not to be, or whatever. Humans fuck. All animal species fuck. Most animal species fuck a lot. At least I think so. Certainly, I love watching shows about bonobos, who are like our closest relatives in the animal kingdom. They fuck a bunch, and they fuck indiscriminately, right? Boy, boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, does not matter. That's actually, bonobos are fascinating because they're the only species we know of that uses sex instead of violence. Where when stress comes into a group of chimpanzees, for example, if there is a threat or whatever, the reaction is violence. And when that violence is, when that stress is between members of the group, they will fight. Bonobos, fuck. I love that. And I want to be a bonobo. We're not that fucking far removed from bonobos, and they fuck, so we should fuck. The idea that you can just say, well, you had sex, therefore you deserve the punishment, and the punishment of sex is a human who will live a whole life. Like that, does that make sense? Uh, no, no, it doesn't. It's a non thing. It's a non thing. I'm all for people having babies. Cool, have babies. Deciding whether or not you're going to have a baby based on the government told me to, yeah, I'm not so big on that. Deciding whether or not to have a baby based on it's illegal, and if for me to not have this, and if I do so, I can go to jail or be fined or be sued or whatever. No, that's not cool. Those are decisions people should make in that moment. Yeah, you should make that decision when you're having sex. You should be like, oh, I'm going to have sex. I'm going to wear a prophylactic. And I'm going to whatever the fuck. But when you had the sex, protected or otherwise, and you are now faced with the reality, there is this thing that will grow inside you and eventually require you to provide a life for it in some way, whether that's giving it up for adoption, which is a decision, and not necessarily a great one, because people aren't getting adopted, or having the baby and paying for the baby to survive and providing a life for that baby for the next 18 to 30 years, depending on, maybe even 40 if it's a white male. You know, that's a decision. And the other decision is, I don't want to do this. That's okay. That's a perfectly valid perspective to take. And if you don't want to do something, you shouldn't have to fucking do it. And the idea that it's a punishment is just fucking wrong. I feel like I'm about to get the birds and the bees talk law. Okay, so there's the bird and there's the bee. The bee has a stinger that goes in the bird's vagina, and then the stinger ejaculates spermatozoa, which is Latin for animal seeds, and the spermatozoa swim up the birth canal of the flower to the uterus, where they implant in the wall. And provided that the implantation takes place with a fertilized embryo, life can be formed. Although it's also possible that the uterine lining could be shed, and the bird would lose its uterine lining and not have some kind of weird bee bird chimera. I would think they're speciated. That whole birds and bees things makes no sense when you think about it. Like, I get that the stork is involved, but it feels like fake science. My opinion only. I am not a birthologist, nor am I a doctor of Jesus, so I cannot speak to these things. But it feels wrong. So this whole argument gets applied. It gets trotted out all the time. Much like everything else, conservatives only have like one of everything. They have one joke, the attack helicopter joke. They have one you deserve it mentality when it comes to whether it's drug overdoses or addiction or unwanted pregnancies or whatever. Birds and Bees was written by the same people who wrote the Bible. It probably was. Mindless shepherds who were like, Daddy, what's a sex? Birds and bees and go ask your mother. Right? That's the birds and the bees. The actual birds and the bees talk. I never got the chance to have it with my kids because they grew up farther away from me than was reasonable for me to have that conversation. I did have some conversations in that vein, but I didn't have the birds and the bees conversation. If I did, you as my children today, I will share with you, the birds and the bees is simple. People fuck. There are important things about fucking. Number one, you should do it with someone you like. You don't have to do it with your life partner. You can do it with someone you don't even know, but it's nicer with someone you like, and you do it more than once so you get better at it. You practice it up, right? The reality is, no matter how good you think you are, every time you're with somebody new, it's a crapshoot. There's maybe they do it in a weird way that you don't do it or whatever, right? So practice makes perfect. Just keep working. Second off, condoms. We live in a world with STIs. It's really easy to forget that. Not forget it, but to sort of downplay it. Especially like my generation grew up with the specter of HIV, and it was an incurable thing. And I came in a little after the whole GERD thing when it was a gay-related immuno disease, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm saying? When they renamed it to human immunovirus and all that kind of jibber jabber. But we grew up with that, and we knew that condoms were a thing, so we used condoms. Because who wants to get AIDS? AIDS bad. But now we can actually, you can live a long life when you are HIV positive. But yeah, this whole HIV thing was huge. We were terrified of it. And so condoms. Condoms weren't a question. No one would talk about stealthing. That's ridiculous because that's for your protection. You want that. And we also learned the joys of oral sex, which we didn't know about HPV, and we didn't know that that would lead to massive increase in all of the digestive tract cancers for men and women because we were going down instead of going to town, and without wearing condoms when because who sucks a dick with a condom on? Come on. That's how people get a lot of different cancers. HPV is not just cervical cancer. It can give you all kinds of cancer in the throaty bits. It's not good. It's not good. Don't do that. So, protection. Even for blowjobs. I'm sorry. I know it sucks. I hate condoms. But you know what I hate more? Dying. Or worse, not dying but having to explain to people that shit's happening. The other thing I would say is learn about if you're into people of a different gender or the same gender or whatever that gender is, or both genders, learn how their body works. This is the best advice that ever there was. Because it turns out, there's the easy guide, which is if it's a woman, poke here, insert there, bada boom. But that's not really good loving. You can do a lot better. And the more you learn about what we know about the various body parts that are at play and the mentalities that are at play, the better you can be as a lover. And when you're a good lover, then people, they come back for seconds, which is what everyone should want. Seconds are good. Thirds are even better. By the time you hit 800s, fucking baller. So good. Johnny, I just hate being older and with little sex experience because I feel like people expect me to know how to please them in bed, but I don't even know enough because I don't have enough sex, so this is a horrible loophole. Yeah, no, I get that. I got married at 19 to the woman that I lost my virginity to. And we were together for 14 years. That's where my children all came from. When I was no longer in that marriage, and it was a largely asexual marriage, when I left that marriage, I had huge fear. A lot of self-conscious feelings, a lot of real fear and real worry that I was gonna be a terrible lover. I also was going through a lot of the mental shit to go with getting divorced and everything. I was going through. I was at the fattest I've ever been. It was a dark time, and I really was hung up on. I'm never gonna find love. I'm never gonna have sex again, or if I do, I'm gonna have to pay for it. All this stupid shit. It was all in my head. Every single piece of that. Literally, the first time that I had sex after the divorce, I literally I stripped down in front of this person who's never seen me naked, and I'm standing there in my skim milk ugly glory, and fat and gross, and that person looked at me and was like, "Come here," and I was like, "Oh my God, this is all in my head. I have been spinning out, and it's all in my head." And I guarantee you, I was not the best lover she'd ever had. It didn't matter. the idea. And this was a person who was not there for a long-term kindling of a romantic candle that we would stitch our universes together like a tapestry. This was a person who was like, hey, we should fuck one night. And I was like, yes, we should. And it didn't matter that I was as good as this person or not as good as that person or better than that person. None of that mattered. What mattered did, we just had some sex and it was fun. I genuinely learned a lot from that moment. And I learned a lot about the fact that no one gives a shit what's up in here. They don't really give a shit about, all this stuff that's in here. What they care about is what's up in here in the other sense. Not the my hang-ups, but in the who am I kind of perspective. That's what women find attractive, seriously. All the fucking incel, volcel bullshit aside, which I don't promote any of that, but all that stuff is wrong because it all assumes that women want chads. I'm not a chad. I'm definitely not a chad. I'm a chud. But I've had lots of people who've been happy to, do stuff with me because I'm a good person, because I'm a thoughtful person, because I'm an interesting person, and not to everybody. Not everyone's going to meet me and be like, there's a fella I could bang. Some people will be like, what an ugly chud. And other people will be like, I hate his takes on being a socialist, or, all that kind of stuff. Fine. We're not meant to fuck everybody. And we shouldn't try. We should just try to have good lives and do good things. And, where sex happens, it's good. That's, but I'm a fucking Gen X man. Maybe I don't know shit about shit. First off, I want to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Thank you to my patrons that support me on Patreon. I am a little streamer, and these people are all really awesome for supporting me. I try to put up stuff at least once a week, and I live stream every Saturday at noon Mountain Time on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, like an old man. Again, thanks for watching, and have a kick-ass day.